I'm reviewing the Red Heart Flower Power granny square yarn that's supposed to self-create itself with a flower in the middle. Now it does say that it takes an eye hook, and we are going to look at the pattern that's inside and see what's going on. It should give all the directions, which it does step by step, plus a graph if you're the type that likes to read a graph. Now it was said on the directions to do a middle pull, so we're getting started with making our round first, and the yarn is pretty stringy, so I have some difficulty with that, but otherwise it works around pretty well on my hook. Now I prefer a metal hook because it slides easier, especially with using some cheaper yarn versus the plastic hooks that you can find at the dollar store. So this is the second round here. We made our centerpiece, and now this is where it was already supposed to start with the blue, and you can see there's a little part that is the yellow, so that does not match up yet. Now this is going to be the end of this round, where it's just outlining the yellow and getting ready for the petals for the next round. So far it's still working up pretty easily, but already one boo-boo that is noticeable. So this is the next round where you start with your petals, and it's still working really easily. The pattern is pretty easy to read and understand. So I would say this is probably more for an intermediate versus a beginner, only because you need to know all the different stitches. But here we go with actually creating the first petal. Now when you're creating the dip between the petals, you do have to do a triple into the row before, so that can get a little on the complicated side if you're a beginner. Now here is where it is supposed to switch to the white, and it does not. So this is a big flaw in this yarn. You will see now you cannot see the definition of the actual petal. But now it does start the white, so you'll start to see the definition of the petals coming up. So if it actually worked correctly, it would be really pretty, because look, you can see the different definition of the petals. Now here, I totally messed up reading the pattern. This is where you start with actually making the granny square, and I messed up reading the stitches. It is totally my fault, not the pattern. So we pulled it out, we restarted the whole round for this, and now it is starting to take the definition of the actual square versus it being in the round and being a circle. This is our last round here. This is what makes the square a little more defined and gives it a little more character, where you're going in and out of the different spaces from the row before. Overall, this is pretty easy to work up. Again, like I said, if you have the knowledge of the different stitches and understanding patterns, this is pretty easy to work up. The biggest flaw is the yarn does not line up like it says that it will. So you end up with a piece of the yellow in the wrong round, and then you can't see the define of the petal. So I'm going to keep working and doing more of these. And